Welcome to the show. My name is Charlton with Big C. This is Charlton and Big C Sports coming to you worldwide on the iHeartRadio network. And I want to thank all of our listeners from Latin America who tweet out to Charlton and Big C and listen to us worldwide Monday through Friday at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Today is a beautiful, happy Friday. It is September the 16th, 2016. And Big C, I always love saying bienvenidos to our Latin American audience, so thank you for that. Also getting people, listeners from Poland, as well as across the pond in London, England. And of course, I love, Canada. And I love that national anthem. I'm actually going to learn it one of these days, Big C. And of course, you good old boys in Dubai. Send some of that oil money over here, Big C. We've been talking about hitting that big lotto. Maybe some good old friends from oil-rich Dubai will help us out too. And also the great country of the United States. But Big C, how's it going for you down south? You good old boys drinking your whiskey and wine for football kicking off all over the weekends. Big C, how's it going?
Well, Charlton, I did like you. I went out and bought one of those lotteries. That way they're trying to revenue in the share. Can't question me about the money I have in the back of my car.
Yeah.
So once I go cash that in, I'll be flush.
Well, that's funny, Big C.
We're enjoying life down here in the South, Charlton. It's always great.
Yeah.
And if you want to learn a little more about that old Canada, you got to go up to the World Hockey Series. They're playing in Toronto.
Oh, yeah.
They play that song every night, so you learn a few more chords to that. Wouldn't just stop at old Canada.
Hey, they say it's better to ask for forgiveness than permission. So I love Canada. I hate to tear up the song, but it's just one of the most beautiful anthems in the world, Big C. And also, when you talk about some of the beautiful things happening around the world of sports, we know there's a lot of things that happened. Last night, college football, we had something with the Houston Cougars. They had a good game, a good come-from-behind game. Actually, in the NFL, it was the Jets and the Bills. The first game ever streamed live on Twitter. Twitter stock is up 4%, Big C, because of the NFL streaming live football. But also, you good old boys, you have a lot of things to talk about with the NFL. But first, we're going to ask you your thoughts on the Houston Cougars last night. They had a come-from-behind game. They actually scored 28 points in the fourth quarter, Big C. Your thoughts on that game?
Well, they went into that game with an injured and hurt quarterback, Greg Ward, who showed great flashes when they played the University of Oklahoma. This kid is a real gamer, Charlton. He had a hurt right shoulder, his throwing shoulder.
Yeah.
But he stayed in there admirably and kept his team in the game until in the fourth quarter when they were able to put 28 points on the board, even though they had two pick sixes to take back for touchdowns. But Houston showed their fertility last night, Charlton, in hanging in with a tough Bearcat team and pulling it out. And that's what championship moxie is made of, Charlton. When you can stay in there in a tough battle when you have players that are hurt, but you find a way to dig out that victory, Charlton.
Yeah, as far as digging out victories, this segment is also sponsored by your Northern California Cadillac dealers, home of the all-new Cadillac Escalade, the standard of the world. And when you go by and test drive it, tell them that Charlton and Big C sent you. Now, Big C, people keep asking me, why does Big C drive his Cadillac in the mud? Doesn't he know it's a luxury car? But I tell him Big C does everything luxury, especially when he's going hunting. He wants that live animal to have his last ride in the lap of luxury. Big C, your thoughts on that?
Well, if you keep him comfortable, then he's going to toughen up, Charlton. That's what people have to understand. You can't have a tense animal knowing where he's headed.
That's funny.
By him riding that nice, Caribbean leather smell and everything in that Cadillac and that smooth ride, he's all comfortable when we get into where he has to go and say goodbye.
Well, see, that's funny because, you're talking about California. We have a large audience from California on the iHeartRadio network, and a lot of people are animal activists out here. I meet people that say they don't eat meat, but they got leather shoes on, Big C, so kind of a walking contradiction, Big C.
Well, when you think about that, I'm a vegetarian, but
right.
You got leather shoes, you got a leather purse, you got a leather belt, you got a leather jacket in the wintertime, but you don't eat meat, but you wear it. So, I'm trying to understand that acronym also, John.
Welcome.
People are total vegetarians and they stay away from meat byproducts, but they wear it all over.
I only wear leather shoes, but I understand Big C. It's California for you. But also, a great game in the NFL last night. We've had so many great close games, Big C, in the first week of the NFL kickoff season. And a great game last night happened with the Jets and also the Buffalo Bills. That game kind of went back and forth for both teams. But ironically, the Jets pulled it out in the end, Big C. Your thoughts on Ryan Fitzpatrick's had a great game last night, Big C. If you call it a great game.
Almost 375 yards last night, Charles.
Yeah.
Just a marvelous game. He has 3 excellent wide receivers when you look at the Jets' offense. And Forte has made a great difference in the backfield, scoring 3 touchdowns on the ground last night, Charlton. But, you look at the flip side. Buffalo put a lot of points on the board, 31.
Yeah.
And it was shocking today to see Buffalo fire their offensive coordinator, Greg Roman. Now, you scored 31 points and put up 400 yards in offense as a team.
Yeah.
Yet your defense gives up 37 points, and you
fire the offensive guy.
Nepotism is hell, So when you look at this, his brother's side of the ball gave up 37 points. Did not slow down the opposing offense.
Yeah.
But his offense scored 31 points, and when you score 31 points,
you're supposed to win.
It's usually a victory. But with the ineptitude that they have on the defensive coaching staff, it's a loss for Buffalo, and you fire the offensive coordinator. And you've only had 2 weeks into the season, so you really haven't developed any game film, any pattern. But you put up 31 points, Charles. You got to be pleased with your offense. Look how many teams. I mean, the Rams were shut out.
Yeah.
And Jeff Fisher didn't fire his offensive coordinator. The Browns scored 10 points. Hugh Jackson didn't fire his.
Yeah.
There's teams up and down the league, Charlton, that scored 1, 2 touchdowns that didn't score at all.
Yeah.
And they kept their offensive coordinator. You hang 31 points.
Yeah.
And I don't understand Ryan's thinking in that, but you hang 31 points and your offensive coordinator's not doing his job.
Well, to me, that's a lot like you're going out on a date and you see your girlfriend with your best friend and you go get mad at him. Don't get mad at him. Get mad at her, Big C. Maybe it's a different story, but you don't fire people that you're in relationships with. And obviously, his brother is more important than the other guy, so they had something going on in the background. But yeah, that's ironic when you score 31 points and you lose your job. Imagine he would have job security if he played for the Rams, Big C. They kept their offensive coordinator.
It might be a month before they score 31 points, Charlton.
Yeah, that's so funny, Big C. And also, as we look around the world of college football, this is real talk, so sometimes it's a little bit unpleasant for some people to hear. It's not Disneyland, Big C, but sometimes I feel like I'm at Disneyland. But the great Penn State University, we know of the tragedy that happened up there with Sandusky and also the late Joe Paterno, and they're actually going against the current here. They're trying to honor a guy when they were saying that he knew and actually was culpable in some of the hiding of these crimes that were committed against boys, Big C. What's up with Penn State trying to honor right now the late Joe Paterno? Maybe this is something they should do 20 years down the road, but this just happened a few seasons ago, Big C. Your thoughts on that?
Well, Charlton, I don't even know if 20 years down the road would be an appropriate time. We're talking about crime against children and humanity, Charlton.
Yeah.
That was covered up. Joe Paterno did great things as a head coach, okay?
Yeah.
He mentored and helped educate hundreds of young men who went on to be positive role models in life, Charlton, in the business and in the professional world. But I got to think about those young men that lives were damaged emotionally and physically by him aiding and abetting to Jerry Sandusky in this scenario, Charlton. It's alleged that the first young man went to Joe Paterno back in 1969 to inform him about the improper acts of his coaching staff. And Joe Paterno did nothing from that time until the time he left his coaching position at Penn State, Charlton, to speak on it. And so when you talk about the lives that he benefited, think about the lives he destroyed. These young men had to go to therapy. They had no direction in life, Charlton. They were all messed up because of an action that was hidden by a head coach. And so with Joe Paterno, was it more important protecting his friend, making sure his win ledger kept climbing?
Apparently so.
Doing the proper legal things, Charlton. And we talk about this so much in life. You can't say that his victory record outweighed the lives of those young boys that were destroyed, Charlton, through his silence.
Well,
his silence and his aiding, Charlton, to allow this to continue for decades. We're not talking about 1 or 2 isolated incidents. We're talking about decades of abuse under his watch at Penn State.
Well,
and when they talk about a coach that everything stops with him, all of this stops with Joe Paterno. He's just as culpable as Jerry Sandusky because he did not stop Jerry Sandusky. He gave him an avenue and a platform to
let it keep happening.
And belong these heinous acts against these children, Charlton.
I agree, Big C. And also, when we think about that I think sexual assault is reportedly is up throughout the country on college campuses, where women are also thought to be the victims of sexual assault. But it happens to men too, and it's such an unspoken crime because a lot of men don't go report that crime. But this went on for a long time, and I just hope that those kids have some closure. But I don't know why you open the wound so soon when this just happened a couple of seasons ago, Big C. Also, about honoring people, the great University of Louisville and Florida State, they're actually going to honor the late Muhammad Ali on this football kickoff on Saturday, Big C. I think that's a great honor because Muhammad Ali stood for so many things. And unlike today's media, Ali was also chastised for standing out against the Vietnam War. Even though he went to prison, he was later exonerated, where a lot of guys, even Donald Trump, they avoided the draft. And he's trying to run to be the president of the United States. He didn't go to jail for not going to the war, but Muhammad Ali did. One's white, one's black, Big C. Just your thoughts on what a great honor it is for Louisville and Florida State to honor the great Muhammad Ali, Big C.
Donald Trump received 6 deferments from the Vietnam War.
How many?
We knew that
How many?
6 deferments.
6.
Now, his dad was a very wealthy man and influential in New York, so that had a lot to do with it.
So how come he's not called unpatriotic, Big C? They get mad at Colin Kaepernick for not standing for the national anthem. He's the guy that skipped out on the war, but now he wants to be the commander in chief. That's an oxymoron. Doesn't make any sense for anyone that can read a little bit, Big C. Your thoughts on that?
Skipped out on the war hood. Hid behind his dad's skirt, Charlton.
Yeah.
And is a blatant liar.
Yeah.
Lies every day that he's out there on the presidential race.
Yeah.
His campaign is based on lies and inaccuracies. But, you got so many Americans that believe that.
Yeah.
And that's how stupid it is. And on the other hand, when you compare that to the great Muhammad Ali, who passed recently, being honored by the University of Louisville.
Yeah.
He's a native of Louisville, Charlton. And not tonight, but tomorrow
night,
they're going to have an emblem on the back of their helmet of a butterfly with the word Ali in the center of it, Charlton.
Yeah.
And, that's what Louisville has been doing this year offensively, is floating like a butterfly.
And stinging like a bee, yeah.
Stinging like a bee also. They've been all over the place.
Yeah.
But, to honor such a masterful humanitarian like the late Muhammad Ali speaks volume, and I give all kudos to Bobby Petrino and the University of Louisville for doing this great honor on national television, where the rest of the networks don't have time to do that. They're doing this, Charlton. They're not letting his memory pass on like he did. They're keeping it alive, and great kudos to the University of Louisville.
Yeah, I agree with that very much, Big C. Also, there are 3 women that I want to pay homage to. We talk about men and women in our society and how people try to become entrepreneurs or how they try to give back. There's 3 women that I've met over the years, especially in business. One is Saeed Bearfield. She's an entrepreneur. She's thinking about how can she leave a good legacy to help other women try to create business. Also, Myra DeLeon. She's an insurance agent out of the great state of Texas, Big C. And, of course, Cindy Severa, and she's helping me with G5 Textiles. And Team IP, we help you get uniforms for people throughout the country. But also, I want to say this segment is sponsored by the California Lottery, Big C. Now, I'm having some issues with the lottery retailers because even though they're sponsoring our show, every time I go in to buy the winning ticket, I get so excited. But I check my ticket the next day, Big C. I hit no numbers, Big C. But this Friday, the Powerball on Saturday is going to be about $240 million. And the Mega Million tonight, Big C, is only like $140 million, Big C. I know that's not a lot of money in your world, but I could really use that money. I've been putting in prayers to TD Jakes, also Creflo Dollar and Joel Osteen. I still own hold with TD Jakes, Big C. So what can I do to get that money that your good old boyfriend pastors might be able to have a call in to God, Big C? Could you get a phone call in to God for me, Big C?
Well, maybe you ought to take his phone number and put it on the lottery ticket. That may pop up as a winner if you
That's
think
funny.
about it. So, I mean, these guys are holding out, and they're not poor in any kind of fashion, so they hit the lottery every weekend.
Yeah, they do.
They do. When they open the doors at the church, they hit the lottery every weekend. But, I went out, I think, and I bought up the winning tickets today, so we should be okay.
I think we'll be okay.
I took your theory, bought the tickets. And so that's an investment now that the IRS can't bother me about, because when I ride around and see all this green in the back of my car,
yes,
it will all be legal.
Well, there's nothing wrong with having legal green, especially if you're from the state of Colorado. And also, Big C, talking about some legal green, I want to bring up some of the great football games that are happening over the course of this weekend. And I know the Dirty Birds from Atlanta, Georgia, they're coming out to Oakland to play the Oakland Raiders. That should be a great game in Oakland, a game that the Raiders probably should win. I know Las Vegas, they like to put their money where their mouth is sometimes. But when you follow the point spread, you really don't know who's going to win these games because there's always some type of pushback or a foul call here and there. Just want to get your thoughts again on the Raiders at home, which could be, unfortunately, the Las Vegas Raiders. I'm so tired of that talk. But $750 million has been put on the table, Big C. It might be the last time we see the Oakland Raiders playing the opening season in Oakland. Your thoughts on that game, Big C?
Well, it's unfortunate that's always coming about, talking about moving a franchise. And it's never good for a community. You look at the Rams just leaving St. Louis and coming back to Los Angeles. Their TV ratings in their first game were less than their last TV ratings in St. Louis. So, there's always a honeymoon when teams go to a new city, Charlton. But that honeymoon only lasts as long as you're winning.
Yeah.
The Rams were not winning when they left St. Louis, Charlton. They were not winning when they left Los Angeles. And the Rams right now are 3 to 4 years away from winning.
Yeah.
So by the time they start winning and they got a new stadium, Charlton, what will be the seating in that new stadium? How many people will attend those games? Because there's so many activities in Southern California, So L.A. loves a winner.
Yeah.
They've had it in college. They've had it in baseball. They've had it all over. But when the Rams are not producing, it's going to be a cavernous place.
Well, it's a shame when you have Kim Kardashian makes more money than the LA Rams, basically, with her online boutique of selling different paraphernalia. So she's a marketing guru, but LA is about the foo-foo and the sunshine and all the glitter and the glitz. And I know the Lakers have had great success in Los Angeles. The Dodgers haven't won a World Series since 1988, or was it 84? I think the 88 season. 88 season. And then you talk about the Raiders. When they were there, they won a Super Bowl. When they were the Los Angeles Raiders, they beat the Washington Redskins. And then the Rams, they were actually in the Super Bowl. They lost to the Pittsburgh Steelers. But the City of Angels, it wants a championship team. But then you have Jeff Fisher again, and I'm not knocking him because he's a head football coach, but he's had 6 winning seasons in 21 seasons. That doesn't make a lot of sense. He still got that $27 million pay raise, but in Los Angeles, you have to compete. In Las Vegas, they tear down casinos. It seems like every other year, they're building a bigger casino. To bring the Raiders into Las Vegas, I don't know if it's going to be a pull because people go to Vegas to gamble, not to go watch a football game, but maybe I'm a little bit wrong. Your thoughts on that, Big C?
Well, there's too many big screens up in all the casinos, Charlton, to worry about sitting in a stadium. And they all have instant replay and announcers. And there's a lot of beverages around that you can get for almost nothing, depending on how much money you lose in Vegas. when you look at teams that have moved in NFL Zero, and there's been 4 significant franchises that have moved over the years.
Yeah.
And all 4 of those franchises have won Super Bowls going to a new city.
That's true.
When you think about the Baltimore Ravens, they were the Baltimore Colts. They won a Super Bowl, has actually won 2, in Baltimore.
Yeah.
I mean, they came from Cleveland and became Baltimore. And you think about the Indianapolis Colts. They were the Baltimore Colts. They won a Super Bowl. Indianapolis.
Yeah.
Oakland Raiders became the LA Raiders. Won 2 Super Bowls, Charlton. And the 4th team, the Rams, won a Super Bowl in St. Louis.
Yeah.
Now, can they duplicate that feat coming back to Los Angeles? Highly questionable right now.
Yeah.
But, it's been a fanfare for those teams that have moved, to those cities.
Yeah.
Because they've been benefactors going to those cities. But now you got teams transitioning and coming back from those cities, such as the Rams, and it hurts a lot of people left behind in St. Louis. I know we're here to talk about sports, but sports is life and life is sports.
Yeah.
And you can't destroy people for profit all the time. But that's what America's been built on for a long time, destroying people for profit. You think about these players that have just moved to Los Angeles, Charlton, these new Ram players.
Yeah.
They don't even know where they belong. They don't know where they live. They're trying to get their kids into school. They're in a dysfunctional state. And so it takes a while for them to become stabilized in this new area. So don't expect a lot from the Rams this year, Joe.
Yeah, I agree with you. Not only do they have a quarterback that they drafted that they're not even playing, there's just a lot of dysfunction in that organization. But also, when you talk about other games in the NFL, Detroit, they have a 6-point favorite over the Tennessee Titans. That's a game that game's in Detroit. Probably a game that Detroit wins, Big C, considering that that Tennessee didn't have a good first game. Your thoughts on that game? 6 points, is that too much, even though they're at home, Big C?
Well, I like what Detroit did last week offensively, Charlton, against Indianapolis.
Yeah.
They proved that they can move the ball up and down the field. You know, we've always known that Matt Stafford can throw the football.
Yeah.
But they had a solid running game last week. They used a tandem of running backs that they got the productivity out of. Now, that's the key in the NFL. We've talked about that many times. You got to be able to run the ball. If you're not running the ball, defenses will just put 8 in the box
key off on you
and shut you down.
Yeah. And that's another great thing, too, Big C. When you think about another game, I think it can be exciting. Houston Texans, a 3-point favorite over Kansas City. I still look at Kansas City as being a great team, a better team than Houston. But the Texans, they're at home, and they're a 3-point favorite. I believe Kansas City went in there last year and beat them in a playoff game, Big C. It really wasn't that close. I don't know what's changed to make them a 3-point favorite this year. Osweiler's a quarterback, but he set the bench last year for Denver. I don't agree with the 3-point favorite at Houston at home over Kansas City. Your thoughts on that game, Big C?
Well, last year in that playoff game, Charlton, they hung 30 points on Houston's defense.
Yeah.
I know J.J. Watt is back. He had a couple sacks last week, but that's just one defender. You know, you move the offense away from J.J. Watt like Kansas City did in the playoffs last year, Charlton. Kansas City also has the longest regular season winning streak right now in the NFL with 11 games.
Yeah.
They won the last 10 regular season games last year, and they won their first game of the season this year. So this is a team that's prepared to play. Andy Reid has done a tremendous job.
Oh, yeah.
I really like what Alex Smith does. Alex Smith has grown up as a quarterback. He'll never be Aaron Rodgers, but he is a solid NFL quarterback. He's not a game manager any longer. He's a guy that's full of productivity.
Now, Big C, the next game, you have New England at home. They're 6.5-point favorite over the Miami Dolphins that just travel as far as you can travel in the NFL. They went up to the Great Northwest and played the Seattle Seahawks. And Seattle actually had to come from behind in that great environment. I think it's difficult for them to fly back to Florida and then to get on a plane again and fly way up to the Northeast to play New England. That's playing pretty well right now. They just had a win on the road at Arizona, but they're a 6.5-point favorite over Miami. That might even be not enough points. Your thoughts on that game, Big C?
Well, that could be a stretch. Now, you got to realize Miami has beaten New England 3 of the last 5 times they played, and the last 2 times that they played in New England.
Yeah.
So for some reason, they play well up there at Gillette Stadium. Now, Jimmy Garoppolo was a starting quarterback last week. Got a lot of praise. But he also threw a lot of bad and questionable balls, that left receivers to hang out to dry, underthrowing receivers that should have been easy catches. So, you know, his game, even though the publicity looked good, when you break it down, it wasn't as great as you think it was. He just happened to be surrounded by some superior athletes that could make him look decent, Charlton. He didn't look great. He looked decent. Tom Brady was snickering in the background saying, I'm not worried about this at all.
Well, he should worry because Drew Bledsoe said the same thing when he got hurt and Tom Brady came out because Belichick, there's no loyalty to that, man. Ask Randy Moss, Big C. That's just my thinking on that. Also, when you look at another game, the Baltimore Ravens, they're favored by 7 over Cleveland. Cleveland did not look very good at all against the Philadelphia Eagles and Carson Wentz last week. And so to have them being a 7-point underdog, they're at home this time to Baltimore, but I think they have some issues. I know RG3 got injured. Some people are saying they're happy for that. I think that's a bad thing to hope that a quarterback gets injured. But I don't think Cleveland's that good this year. They might be another year away from getting to a 5-win season. Your thoughts on that game, Big C?
Well, you know, everybody always puts the onus on the offense, Charlton, when you look at the team. But the defense has to stop somebody. This is the defense that went up against an unproven rookie quarterback. And he had his way with him, over 270 yards passing, a couple touchdowns, Charlton. And if you're a veteran player in the NFL, you got to have a little more pride in that to walk out and get trucked by a rookie who played Division II, Division III football and look like an all-pro against you. So Cleveland's problems were not RG3, Charlton. They're on the defensive side of the ball, and just like we saw with the Bills. The problem is on the defensive side of the ball, not the offense, because if you can't stop anybody, you're not going to beat anybody, Charlton.
Or they may have to call the fire department for this next game because you have the Pittsburgh Steelers. They're a 3.5-point favorite over the Cincinnati Bengals. You know, that's 2 dominant physical football teams. We know what happened last year, Big C, when we had that incident. Vontaze Burfict, he actually had a hard hit on Brown, the receiver, knocked him out of the game. So that's going to be another physical matchup. And before we get your thoughts on it, I want to say this segment is sponsored by United Labor. Guaranteed $100,000 life insurance with no medical questions. We're also endorsed by the American Cancer Society and the American Heart Association. And we also work under the AFL-CIO with all of the unions. And they actually help build the NFL by building great football stadiums. We're looking for 1,000 licensed insurance brokers to come to work. Tweet out the Charlton and Big C Sports on the iHeartRadio network. Now, Big C, getting back to Pittsburgh and Cincinnati, two teams that are always playoff contenders. Pittsburgh this year, a lot of people have them at least playing in the AFC Championship game. Your thoughts on that game against Cincinnati, Big C?
Well, Berzik won't be playing in this game, Johnson. He knocked out Brown. He also knocked out Roethlisberger last year.
Yeah.
This is a rivalry game. This is two organizations that really have a disdain for each other. And so you always get a very physical match. If you recall several years ago, Carson Palmer was knocked out.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the Steelers went on to win the Super Bowl. So this is a game that's been loaded with injuries over its history.
Yeah.
And two organizations that really don't care about each other. But Pittsburgh last week proved that they can play some defense.
Yeah.
They shut down this $20 million quarterback in Washington. Made him look like a JV player.
You like that? So, you like that? You mean Kirk Cousins? Is that the guy you're talking about, Big C?
They treat him like a step cousin or something.
Yeah.
But I guess he proved that he was worth $20 million last week, But it was only the Steelers that he was playing. So, I like what the Steelers can do offensively, Charlton.
Yeah.
Brown only caught 8 balls last week, so he's under his last year's average per game.
Yeah.
But, there's nobody that's more dynamic from the receiving position right now in the NFL. And when you have a healthy Ben Roethlisberger who can put the ball anywhere that he desires,
yeah,
Pittsburgh Steelers will be a hard team to beat. A.J. Green can have a great game against any defensive back.
Oh, he's amazing.
I think that the Steelers are just a little bit too much for the Bengals in this game, Charlton.
Another game that you really don't get a feel on because you talked about Washington, losing last week. They're playing the Dallas Cowboys, who also lost a tough game to the New York Giants. Dak Prescott, I really love the way he's looking as a rookie player for the Dallas Cowboys. Didn't have a great success throwing the ball deep downfield, but that's going to come with the guy starting his first game, Big C. And also, they have a good running game, Ezekiel Elliott, even though he was limited to 50 yards last week. But this game is going to be in Washington. They're actually a 3-point favorite over the Dallas Cowboys. I think if the Cowboys impose their will in the running game, they have still, I think, one of the top offensive lines in college football. But they still have Washington, the bettors in Las Vegas, a 3-point favorite. Your thought on that game, Big C?
Well, Dallas threw the ball Prescott last week 52 times.
That's too many times.
54 times. And that's too many times to put the burden on a rookie quarterback as an offensive play caller. Put the ball in the air that many times. You've had one of the more dominant offensive lines pertaining to the ground game in the NFL in the last 3 years. And you go away from that. You go away from what makes your organization successful, putting all the emphasis on this rookie quarterback.
Yeah.
And so he did show some signs completing 24 passes, but you got to get the ground game going. Once the ground game is going, now you open up the underneath routes for Prescott.
Yeah.
He's not going to be so pressed. You think about Dallas at the end of that game, Charlton.
Yeah.
Where you had receivers that did not get out of bounds. They stayed in bounds, and that happened on 3 separate occasions.
Yeah.
Now, if those receivers had gotten out of bounds and they would have been able to kick the field goal, it would have been a whole different story on how people evaluate Prescott.
And I don't think that happens.
He got the ball to the open receivers, Charlton. Yeah. They just neglected to go out of bounds. He had to, stop the clock on 2 different calls. After making completions instead of receiver hitting out of bounds, trying to get another 2 to 3 yards.
Yeah.
That's an aptitude as far as coaching.
Well,
it wasn't a lack of performance on Dak Prescott.
Yeah.
It was the veteran players that let the Dallas Cowboys down last week.
And Big C, I don't think that happens if you're Bill Belichick happening. If that's a Bill Belichick coach team, or even if you look at Seattle, Pete Carroll, I don't think that happens. I think down in Dallas, there's something about this good old boy friendship that Jerry Jones has. He had a great coach in Jimmy Johnson, but since then, I know he's gone through Barry Switzer, and he's had a litany of coaches, but he's trying to be loyal where maybe loyalty should not exist, Big C. Just my thoughts on that. But also, I want to ask you this question. Another game coming up, you have the New York Giants. They're in a 4.5-point favorite over the New Orleans Saints. Now, New Orleans can score a lot of points. We saw that against the Raiders, and the Raiders are trying to improve their defense, Big C. But I like Drew Brees not going 0-2 going into New York. I'm not that impressed with the Giants yet, Big C. But your thoughts on that game, Big C?
Well, Charlton, last year these two quarterbacks combined for 13 touchdown passes.
Yeah.
And over 850 yards. So this is the shootout. You got two teams without great defenses. Drew Brees can drop dimes on anybody, Charlton. He is a prolific and fantastic passer in the NFL, one of the best that they've ever seen. He will never be judged as that. But when you put his numbers and his stats up against anybody else, he's equal to anybody who's ever played in this game. And I look for him to put up numbers exceeding what he did against Oakland last week.
Yeah.
We've always talked about New Orleans having an inept defense, and that's the reason why Ryan was let go. They haven't gotten any better.
Yeah.
The Giants are still trying to find themselves. Like I said, if those receivers in Dallas had went out of bounds, the Giants would be 0-1.
Yeah, I agree.
So the Giants are 1-0.
Yeah.
So, any victory is a good victory in the NFL.
Yeah, definitely
the
true.
Giants had some question marks behind their victory. Jack Del Rio came out as a gunslinger, went for 2, and got the victory for Oakland.
Well, ironically, one of the next games is coming up, Big C. The San Francisco 49ers, they're actually flying across the country. They're flying to Carolina to take on the Carolina Panthers. That's a 13.5-point favorite for Carolina. Now, that's a lot in the NFL, but it may not be enough in this game. I think Blaine Gabbert was a little bit injured, being banged up last week running the football against in their first game, Big C, against the Rams. Now they're asking him to go across the country and beat Cam Newton, which I don't think is going to happen at all. And on Cam Newton, they have to be smartened from what happened to them in Denver. They missed a field goal that cost them that game, Big C. I just want to get your thoughts on the new upstart San Francisco 49ers. They're 1-0 going into Carolina where they're 0-1. Your thoughts on what we might see in that game, Big C?
Well, Charlton, you're looking at the top 2 quarterbacks that were taken 5 years ago in the NFL draft.
Yeah.
Cam Newton was taken number 1. Blaine Gabbert was taken number 5. Okay? Their careers are taking totally different paths getting to this game on Sunday. But I look at Carolina to rebound, Charlton. They were in the game. I mean, there's a lot of question marks about the hits that Cam Newton took. People say, well, the coaches put him in a bad position because they keep him mobile.
Yeah.
But still, shots to the head are illegal in the NFL.
Yeah.
Yes, running backs take those all the time, but Cam Newton has never been labeled as a running back. He's always been documented as a quarterback. And so the officials not making these calls in this scenario, and like I said, I still believe it's because he wouldn't say anything negative about Colin Kaepernick.
Yeah.
So these officials have it in for Cam Newton, saying we're not going to treat you any better. We're going to treat you less than what we would treat a normal quarterback. Blaine Gabbert had some success last week. Carlo Hyde took the ball in a couple times on the ground for the 49ers offense. Their defense played lights out, better than expected. But they played the Rams also, Charlton. So, when you look at it, you like Carolina because you're going across the country, time difference and all. And I look for Carolina to rebound. I don't look for them to start 0-2, Charlton.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that, Big C. When another team that has to rebound, the Arizona Cardinals, they have not looked very good. They were blown out last year in the NFC Championship game at Carolina. Now they're at home, and they're actually a 6.5-point favorite over Tampa Bay. Now, Jameis Winston, I think he's the real deal, Big C. I don't take this game lightly if I'm Arizona. Tampa Bay is much improved, and that 6.5 points might be too much. Just my opinion. I know Tampa has to travel across the country, Big C, but that's a scary bet if you're Arizona coming off of a loss at home to New England. Your thoughts on Arizona at home versus Tampa Bay, Big C?
Well, we're going to see two quarterbacks wearing the number 3, Charlton. But I like the younger of the 2.
Yeah.
Jameis Winston looked marvelous last week against Atlanta. Where, I can't even think of the guy's name now.
Was it Ryan?
Carson Palmer.
Oh, Carson Palmer, yeah.
Carson Palmer just looked unsteady.
Yeah.
As a quarterback, a veteran quarterback, he looked unsteady playing last week. But Jameis Winston did all the right things, made the right throws. And this Tampa Bay Buccaneer team is hungry, Charlton. They put together a team over the last 3 or 4 years of young players that have gelled. And them going out to Arizona, the time difference is not going to make any difference because they're flying out of the Eastern time zone, so it's better for them. They pick up time, as a matter of fact.
Well,
but I like Tampa Bay in this game. I just don't think that Arizona's offense is clicking yet. They still have that hangover from the playoff loss of last year. And they're going to be another game or 2 before they can get kick-started.
Well, another game that I'm looking at, Big C, and this is shocking to me last week because up in Seattle at home, the Legion of Boom, Quest Field, Seattle, almost 70,000 fans. I think it's the most difficult environment in the NFL to play in. And they had a tough time getting on track against the Miami Dolphins. Well, now they have a team that it would be so easy to overlook. But the Rams beat them twice last year, so you can't skip that. But Seattle's a 6.5-point favorite at home versus the Los Angeles Rams. Again, they haven't beaten the Rams in the last year, Big C. That's a game they cannot overlook, and they have to play much better than they played against Miami. You think Pete Carroll will have the boys ready for that game, Big C?
Well, Russell Wilson was dinged up last week with the ankle, Charlton, which made a huge difference in the game.
Yeah.
The defense played steady. I mean, you think about the points they limited Miami to.
Yeah.
It's just the offense lacked productivity last week. And so I think that they got that wake-up call to say, hey, guys, we got to go back to where we were in preseason game number 3, where we just let it fly. You have the tools offensively. You have the great receiving core. You got the young running back. But Russell Wilson being gimped takes away another threat on that offense, Charlton, because his mobility is a separator. When he can get out on the edge, he can tuck it and run, or he can threaten the defense and then drop it over the top for an easy pass, Charlton.
Well, thinking of dropping it over the top, this segment is also sponsored by One Life America Life Insurance. We're the leaders in the country when it comes to final expense, and we're also looking to hire over 1,000 licensed insurance brokers to go to work with iHeart Radio and also Charlton and Big C Sports. We're trying to put people back to work, Big C, so tweet out to Charlton and Big C Sports if you're looking for work. Again, we're looking for licensed insurance brokers. Tweet out to Charlton and Big C Sports. Another game, Big C, one that I'm actually interested in watching just for the namesake. We have the Denver Broncos, the defending Super Bowl champions. They are at home, and they are a 6.5-point favorite over Andrew Luck and the Indianapolis Colts. Now, Andrew Luck's the most highest-paid quarterback in the NFL, over $144 million contract. I think he's going to be 0-2 after this game, Big C. Your thoughts on that?
Well, if you think about when Luck's season ended last year, Dalton, it was against the Denver Broncos when he ended up with the lacerated kidney.
Yeah.
And a mild concussion. I mean, the Denver Broncos, we've seen, have had a very fierce defense. We saw them last year in the playoffs during that playoff run, getting there. We've seen it in the opening game this year that they have not missed a stride.
Yeah.
This is a very solid organization. You know, they got a quarterback that they're asking not to make mistakes. Anderson is very solid at the running back position. Demaryius Thomas may be a little banged up for this game, but it's going to be a game-time decision at wide receiver.
Yeah.
Simeon, like I said, he was unhaunted last week in his first NFL start. He did what was asked of him. But this defense led by Von Miller in Denver, you know, they're just a formidable bunch, Charlton. I mean, that linebacking core right now reminds me of a linebacking core that the New Orleans Saints used to have.
Oh, yeah.
Back in the 80s. I mean, they were just a tremendous bunch, and that's what the Broncos remind me of, and they get after people. So I see the Broncos covering and winning this game, Charlton.
Well, ironically, when you think about that, Big C, Von Miller, it took Elway a long time to sign Von Miller, but Andrew Luck got paid up front right away, Big C. Did not take them a long time to sign him, but I think by you watching this game, you're going to see maybe Von Miller should have got the $144 million, Big C. Maybe he'll start to hold out after this when he sees what happens with guys that get hurt and they get the biggest paycheck in the history of quarterbacking in the NFL, Big C.
You know, the Colts are starting 4 rookie offensive linemen and a journeyman left tackle.
Yeah.
So when you talk about somebody who's going to be under pressure all night long, that's Andrew Luck.
Yeah.
Andrew Luck, I mean, he might be able to get the ball to Frank Gore a few times and let him take a little bit of pressure off of him. But if he's under the gun from this Denver defense, it's going to be a long night in the Mile High City, Charlton.
And speaking of a long night, I mean, we talked about this before. We actually talked about it yesterday, and it's all over the Associated Press today. If you're an Oakland Raider fan, I think about what the great Al Davis did for the Oakland Raiders, bringing them in to the championship form, just win, baby. That was the old moniker that he had. But it was his fault that he took him down to Los Angeles because he could not get luxury boxes built by the county of Alameda County in the Bay Area. Went down to L.A., couldn't get a new stadium in L.A. They kept talking about different sites to move to in Los Angeles. Now he's passed on, and his son, Mark Davis, he's doing the same thing, Big C. Unfortunately, this is a Raider team that I think will challenge for the AFC West Championship. I think they were tied with Denver going into the fourth quarter last year. They were tied with Kansas City in the fourth quarter last year at home. They actually beat Denver on the road last year. They are a much better team offensively this year. But this talk, and your heart hurts for the Raider fans. They kind of like the fans from St. Louis, Big C, where there's talk about, even before you have the home opening game, where they're trying to sell out the Coliseum, they're bragging that they're going to leave the old girlfriend for the new girlfriend. Now, I know some people don't mind that, Big C, but it just doesn't make any sense that they celebrate going to Las Vegas before even opening kickoff, Big C. Is that callous, or do you think it's the right thing to do, Big C?
You know, one of the big things about the NFL, Charlton, we've always known is about money. That's what it's about. And when you have the luxury boxes, that's not revenue sharing. That goes directly to the ownership.
Yeah.
And so that's what everybody's looking at. You look at the Falcons, they're building a new stadium. The Georgia Dome is just 20 years old.
Yeah.
And they're building a new stadium just to add more luxury boxes. I think they're adding 26 more luxury boxes because that's revenue that goes directly to the owner instead of sharing it in revenue sharing in the NFL. So that's why you sit around and you look at these teams building these new stadiums. The Minnesota Vikings, with their new stadiums. The Rams have the new one on the slate for Inglewood. You know, and you look around the league as these new venues have gone up. That's what it's all about. You have some venues that are not outdated, whether they're basketball, baseball, or football, but it's about generating more revenue.
It's about the money. Yeah, I agree.
That's what it's all about. But what happens is these fans, these loyal fans that have generated revenue forever for these organizations that have gone out and they miss paying bills to go see a game to support their local team, Charlton.
I hear you guys in the South, you guys even miss moonshine and sometimes even church just to go to a football game, Big C.
And so when you think about the disloyalty of the ownership of some of these franchises that will just up and move in the middle of the night because they found a new girlfriend that'll let them come spend the night. And that's what happened. We saw that with Indianapolis.
Wait, hold on, Big C. I think you just breaking news. You're saying they have girlfriends and wives in the South, Big C? I thought that stuff was outlawed down there, you good old boys.
Well, you know, we never mentioned that. That's just, you know.
So what happens in Vegas and in the South stays in Vegas and in the South? Is that what you're saying, Big C?
Something like that.
Okay.
So, you know, when you look at these stadiums, it's been, you know, that's how Baltimore left.
Yeah.
That's how the Rams left. You know, they were wooed by, that's how the Browns left Cleveland and became the Ravens.
Yeah.
They were wooed by a stadium, Charlton. And so when you do this, there's many lives that are destroyed.
Yeah.
You know, because you're taking the team, you're not taking the entire organization, the clerical, the front office staff.
Yeah.
You're normally not taking them, so they're left behind. And the community is left with a huge void. How do you replace this void that you've left in the community?
Well, you know, there was back in the day, back in the 80s, and we talk about how TV and Hollywood and sports, they all mirror each other. There was a great TV show by, I think it was called Dallas, and it was out of the great state of Texas. I think it was J.R. Ewing, and it also had Sue Ellen was his Jerry. What's his name again, Big C?
Larry Hagman.
Larry Hagman.
Larry Duffy was his brother Bobby.
Well, so you must have watched that show also. In fact, I think that was your neighborhood, Big C.
Every Friday night, whether I was at home or on the road, if we were on the road, the VCR was plugged in, so that when I got home, I could watch that show in company.
Big C, what's a VCR, Big C?
It was a big cassette recorder.
Okay, well, you know, the moxie of J.R. Ewing, he was always telling his wife, Sue Ellen, that he was going to hang out with the boys at the bar for a couple of drinks after he finished doing an oil deal, but she knew he had girlfriends, so I guess down in Texas it's okay to have wives and girlfriends, but he was out front about it, and I think that's what the Raiders are doing to their fans. It's like, yeah, you're married to us, and a lot of you guys, you know, you put a mortgage on your house, or you went out getting a credit card debt to come watch the Raiders play, and we're going to leave you for someone prettier and sexier. If you're okay with that, that's fine. But I kind of feel bad for the Raider fans that are going to tailgate. They're going to have fried barbecue pig. They're going to have fried ribs and chicken. They're going to do all these great tailgating parties that they do, and they know that the guy's bragging about leaving them. I just think that's bad for the NFL. And Roger Goodell, I don't know if he's taking a nap, but I haven't seen much of Roger Goodell lately. Have you even heard from him lately, Big C? Your thoughts?
You know, the NFL should have did what the Cleveland Browns did years ago, put a moratorium on the team. You can leave, but you cannot take the name. And that's why the Browns still have their name and the Ravens had to become the Ravens. They allowed the team to leave, but you had to leave the name behind. And that's the same thing that should be with everybody.
Yeah.
When the Rams left, they should have had to leave the name Rams in Los Angeles. When the coach left, that name needed to stay in Baltimore. Ironically, Charlton, they had a lawsuit.
Yeah.
Back in the 90s, they had a CFL team that went into Baltimore, and they tried to use the name.
Wasn't it the Stallions? It was the Stallions, wasn't it, Big C?
They ended up becoming the Stallions, but the coach sued them over name rights.
Yeah.
And even though they no longer represented Baltimore. But the NFL and Paul Tagliabue and the rest of the owners need to put this in play.
Yeah.
That if you leave a city, the name of the franchise stays, it belongs to the city because that's what it signifies. Now think about the Bears, and they originally started out in St. Louis.
Yeah.
They're the Chicago Bears, but if they were to go somewhere else, the Monsters of the Midway say, they end up in they're the St. Louis Bears now where they originally started.
Yeah.
Doesn't sound right. When the Cardinals left St. Louis, they became the Arizona Cardinals. They should have been named another name and left the Cardinals behind because that's a history of the region, Charlton. That's something that belongs to the people. And when you're pillaging the people and taking away their heritage and their lineage, there's no respect for those communities that have supported you for decades, saying, hey, we appreciate all the money that you paid, but we're taking it and leaving you with nothing, not even a name.
Well, Big C, I think that's so important. And I want to tell you, before we get to these last two games, have you noticed that in the last 2 years, that NFL commissioner who makes $44 million a year, mostly on black labor, when he was chasing Tom Brady for this Deflategate, when they blew out the Indianapolis Colts, I think it was 45-7 or something close to that number. In the last 2 years that he's been chasing Tom Brady in Deflategate, we've had the St. Louis Rams relocate, we've had the San Diego Chargers talking about relocating, and now we have the Oakland Raiders talking about relocating. That's 3 NFL franchises that are talking about relocating. I think Roger Goodell would do a lot better focusing on how to keep the league and those communities safe. A lot of them put up bonds to help build stadiums, and they fleece these communities, and now you're allowing these teams to just up and go like you're selling a house or a car. I think it would do more good for the league if the commissioner focused on the teams, all teams as a whole, as opposed to one player. Big C, your thought on that?
Well, that's what I was speaking about, Charlton. If these teams leave and the league votes they can leave, they leave the name behind.
Yeah.
Because that's what the team stands behind, is its name. That's the shield. And now the NFL has to invent more names. Because when you think about this, Charlton, when you think about the Baltimore Colts that are in the NFL Hall of Fame, they have as Baltimore Colts. Charlton. There's no Indianapolis Colts that are in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
So, when you look at things like that, the Oakland Raiders were in the NFL Hall of Fame. Then they became the Los Angeles Raiders. Think about the Los Angeles Rams, Charlton.
Yeah.
They were in the NFL Hall of Fame. Now, the Baltimore Ravens were a fledgling franchise, but think about it, the greatest runner of all time, Jim Brown, in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
And they had no football team in Cleveland. Otto Graham, one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time, won more consecutive championships than any quarterback in NFL history back in the 50s.
Yeah.
He was in the Hall of Fame, yet they had no franchise in Cleveland. So when you take the lineage away from an organization and you place it elsewhere, it's like as simple as looking at the Hall of Fame. This player played in this city. Think about Pittsburgh. If Pittsburgh left from those great teams of the 70s, how they dominated the NFL. If the Pittsburgh Steelers became, the Tampa Steelers, or anybody, Charlton, the San Antonio Steelers, how would that sound?
That would not be good.
What would that do to that rich history of that organization to allow the NFL to let that name leave this city where this team has meant so much over the decades and become the San Antonio Steelers instead of if the organization left, they had to adapt a new name, Charlton.
Well, that's very true, Big C. And this final segment is sponsored by BeneathHisWingsFoundation.org and also CYNN Entertainment when it comes to promotions. Cynthia Evans, she's the best in Northern California. The last two games I want to touch on this beautiful Happy Friday, Big C, getting ready for Week 2 of the NFL. You have the Green Bay Packers, a 2-point favorite on the road at the Minnesota Vikings in their beautiful new stadium. Your thoughts on that game, Big C?
Well, we talked about the uncertainty with Minnesota at quarterback. You got Hill and you have Bradford. They haven't made a decision. Peterson didn't have a great game last week. Because when you have a quarterback that you don't feel is a threat, you stack the box, and that's what Tennessee did. But Green Bay is hurting a little bit of the receiving core itself. Nelson is not 100% yet, coming off his knee injury. And then Cobb got a little banged up last week also, Charlton. So this is a game, when we look at what Aaron Rodgers can do, he can put the ball in the air on anybody. Just pinpoint passer.
Pinpoint passer.
So the difference in this game will be the quarterback play. So you got to give the nod to Green Bay with Aaron Rodgers and the uncertainty with Minnesota, who they're going to play in the Pittsburgh.
Well, that's also true, Big C. Last game for the NFL, and I'm so excited about the kickoff for NFL Week 2 coming up. But we have on Monday night Chicago, and they're a 3-point favorite over Philadelphia. Carson Wentz, I don't think he's ready to be a starter in the NFL, but he did throw for 278 yards against Cleveland. But he may go he actually might start out 2-0, which is going to give us false hope for the Philadelphia Eagles fans, Big C. Your thoughts on the Bears being a 3-point favorite at home versus the Philadelphia Eagles?
When you say you don't know whether Carson Wentz is ready to be a full-time starter in the NFL, I think that jury's still out on Jay Cutler, Charles.
That's
when
true.
You think about it.
But he's a $100 million quarterback, Big C. What are you talking about? $100 million? I know he's a guaranteed winner, Big C.
Well, he's a guaranteed to show up, but he cash his paycheck. But as far as delivering victories in Chicago, Chicago, they've been few and far in between.
Yeah.
And so, this is the thing we've constantly discussed, Charlton, that you got all these quarterbacks sitting around making all this money that are giving you no victories.
Yeah.
Why don't you pay these guys a base salary and victories on top of that? Give them a couple of $1 million for every victory that they give you. But you're not getting anything. When you got a quarterback that's going out there, Charlton, making $2 million a game, $1.5 million a game,
yeah,
and he only has a 5-11 record at the end of the year. How do you base and justify his money when you need to pay for an offensive line that can protect him whether he's good or bad? You need to get a good running back and a couple of good receivers. And also you need to pay for some people on the back end of the defense.
Yeah.
You need to reduce those salaries in half, Charlton, make it equitable across the team. Maybe you'll find a winner, but you can't invest $1.7 million a game in a quarterback and only get 5 victories on the year, Charlton.
Well, I guess if you're not good at math, Big C, you can. But speaking of being good at math, I want to tell you we appreciate you very much. And you can listen to Charlton Big C Sports every Monday through Friday at 5 o'clock p.m. Pacific Standard Time worldwide on the iHeartRadio network. Whether you're listening from Japan, whether you're in Australia, or even Dubai, we want to tell you that we thank you for listening in. In Canada, I'm going to learn that national anthem. And as we always want to tell you, enjoy football, be safe, keep our women safe. If you see domestic violence, just call 911. No tolerance for domestic violence on Charlton and Big C Sports. We also want to tell you that we thank you for listening. We appreciate you, and we hope that you have a super fantastic day.